Hey guys, welcome back to a new video on the channel. My name's Jack.F. I'm a freelance videographer, photographer, video editor, and everything video production. So if that's something you're interested in, stay tuned and subscribe to the channel. So today we're doing another podcast. Now it's been a bit of a while since I did a podcast. Last one I did was back in May with Jack Cole. If you want to see that one, go check it out up there. I don't know which side it will be on, mirror effect or not. So today we've got Jay. Hi Jay, do you want to introduce yourself? Like
Yeah,
who are
sure.
you? What did you do?
So, hi guys. My name is Jay Stone. I'm a freelance photographer and videographer and drone pilot, and I'm in the southwest of the UK, down in Plymouth.
Okay, and how did you get into videography, like the video production space?
I think for me, it kind of started off when I was a student. So, my A-level days,
Mm,
I picked up media A-level and video production BTEC, and I did a lot of stuff through there. It was more the cinematography side of things, so analyzing film and looking at, uh, I guess, trying to think how to describe it. Really, it was more about the academic side of it rather than the practical side of it to start with, and then as time went on, I picked up my first camera and started doing my own video projects. And then when I came to university, although I didn't study media or anything similar, I worked a lot in the events scene in Plymouth and
mm.
at the uni, and did a lot of work with that, and it kind of just took off from there. Around 2010 to 2012 is when it kind of really started to take off.
Yeah. So would you say event videography is kind of your main like type of videography? Like if someone says, what kind of videography do you do? Like I always say I'm a live event videographer. That's what I do, like live events, whether that be like kind of like weddings, nightclubs, festivals, event organizers. Would you say you're more like live events or a bit of everything?
I think I'd say it's mostly live events. I mean, I look back at my show reel each year and I see how much of it's been,
Mm,
whether it's a music festival, a nightclub, even a wedding is an event at the end of the day. So it could be anything like that. And yeah,
mm.
I'd say events on the whole is probably my most the most of what I do. Yeah, the majority of what I do.
Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. So, have you ever wanted to get into photography? Like, I know you do video, but what about photography?
I guess I started on photography really in the grand scheme of things. So although what I said about things taking off around 2010, 2012, it took off for both photography and videography for me then. I
Mm,
was a nightclub photographer for the best part of 5 years, and
yeah,
on the side of the nightclub photography, I was doing the nightclub videography. So I kind of one
yeah,
paid the bills, and one was a bit more fun with the video side of things. And I kind of
mm,
owe most of my event side of my career to starting off as the nightclub photographer, which then gave me the
yeah.
opportunities to explore videography later on.
Wow, that's amazing. That.
Yeah, it wasn't, but it worked out quite well. I mean, I do most, if 90% of the photography I still do now is weddings. The other
Mm,
10% is corporate, and a little bit of festivals on the side of already doing the video work.
yeah. I mean, we love weddings. Weddings, in my experience, weddings pays the best out of all of them.
Oh
Maybe
yeah.
corporates up there a little bit, but wedding is mega bucks. Um, so in terms of getting, starting out and getting your clients, how did you go about that? How did you get your first nightclub gig?
So my first nightclub gig was, this is me showing my age now. So this is Oceana. So pre-Prism. So Prism, this is,
Mm,
when before it turned into Prism, they were Oceana,
yeah,
and it was Freshers Week in my freshers year at uni, and I had a little compact, little Nikon tiny thing, and it didn't film anything special on it. I
yeah,
just basically, it was a phone party, and me and my mates I just filmed like 5 or 6 clips on it, and I edited it together a little bit of music, and the manager saw it. And this is in 2010, remember, when
mm,
social media content creators weren't a thing. You weren't a content creator. You were either a photographer or a cameraman, or a videographer
yeah,
in this case, I guess. Um, and they said, "Oh, we like what you've done there. You've done some, you've got some cool photos, some cool videos here. Would you do this professionally?" And I went, "Well, I haven't got a camera. I've only got this little tiny pocket compact thing." And I was 19 years old,
yeah,
documenting nights out as we did in 2010. Um, and they said, "Oh, it's all right. We've got DSLRs you can have." And I went, "Oh, okay, I'll try that." And that was I was very, very fortunate that I got a gig through doing that. And then
Yeah.
that led to another gig because the manager of another nightclub was out in Oceania at the time. So he saw my work and thought, actually, let's get him in on a Friday night in this venue. And then it just, one thing led to another. And it was very much a case of who, as everyone says, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And this industry
Yeah.
is absolutely driven by communication between clients, between festivals, between events, between nightclubs. I did some work in this summer at Boardmasters, and the photographers there are event photographers from Manchester, Southampton, London. This is down in Newquay. Like, this is miles away from London. This is 250 miles away from London, and yet it's still dragging talent down for
Yeah.
those sort of events. So because of who they know and who they've met over the years and who they've communicated to. So I think, yeah, to start out, for me, it was a case of I was very fortunate to take a few good photos, I guess, and they got noticed. I'm not suggesting that people on a drunk night out should take their $4,000 DSLR to a phone party by any means. Don't do that, crikey. But it's definitely worth pursuing if you're interested in events and festivals specifically. It's definitely worth pursuing nightclub stuff first, because then you get a good idea of lighting, because it's forever changing.
Yeah. I was going to say that. Yeah.
It's difficult. It's very difficult. I mean, I started with this. I'm going to get absolutely roasted in the comment section for this, but I started with the pop-up flash on the DSLR, and that's how I started. And I look back and I think, oh, why did I do that?
Yeah.
And then I bought a cheap flash gun, which changed everything. And then you start learning lighting techniques and how to bounce the flash off the white walls to get like nice diffusion and things like that. And working with the nightclub lights as well, because you want to get that lovely, the nice colors behind them and so on. But starting with the nightclub stuff, you can then, when you get like a guest DJ, I think one of the first DJs I ever had that really cemented what I wanted to do with my career in terms of festivals and events was Danny Howard. We had Danny Howard at, gosh, it must have been as far back as 2012 or 2013, and I was doing the nightclub stuff, and again tagging them, showing like, oh, I've photographed this really amazing DJ, and it kind of solidifies your place on Instagram, social media, and think, oh, he's more than just a drunk person's nightclub photographer. He's moving into other things. So you kind of build up that repertoire gently over time, and then you can use that to then talk to promoters and say, hi, this is the sort of stuff I do. If you need a photographer, please let me know. I mean, for those sort of for events, it happens a lot. There's a lot of events in Plymouth where promoters have 4 or 5 local DJs, and they're always after those sort of really cool DJ shots as if they were number one DJ in the world. They want the best content, and they're crying out for that sort of content. And there are plenty of what I call, I guess, not students, because they're all older than that, but not even entry level. They're further forward than that. But there's enough people starting out in the industry to kind of fill that gap.
Yeah.
And that's where it takes off from. Those events with those promoters only get bigger, generally speaking, as time's gone on. I mean, some of the promoters down here, they've gone and bought a nightclub. They've got their own nightclub now. They started as 7 or 8 years ago as a little 200 capacity night out, and now they have one of the most successful nightclubs in the city.
Yeah.
So, but they've taken photographers and creatives and DJs as well, actually, all with them from the start. So now they've got these photographers who have photographed Annie Mac, Faithless, some really amazing names in this venue, because they've taken them on this journey. So it's and another thing is, if your friends are a band or in a DJ themselves and they've got a warm-up set somewhere, ask if you can go along with them, because 90% of the time the DJ is probably not going to say no, because they want free photos, or at least cheap photos anyway. And the venue gets extra content.
Literally.
So all you can do is ask, and the worst they can say is no.
So in terms of starting out, pricing wise, like the way I started doing nightclubs, I literally went to I DM'd all of the nightclubs in Manchester. I was like, yo, I'm kind of like, new to this, do you want a free video? But then after a while, I started to want to get paid. How much, in your experience, do you think should be like the minimum that you should get paid for a nightclub? I mean, I was doing nightclubs for like 30, 50 quid.
Oh, same. This was 2010, 2011. So I think this will vary depending on location. I think I
Yeah.
would have been paid double what I was paid in Plymouth if I was working, say, somewhere like Bristol. I think the money would have been
Hmm.
double. To put it into perspective, as a student, I started on £25 a night for 2 hours work. However, there was perks because as a student, it was a
Yeah.
case of, oh, you can have free drinks if you want. I was like, oh, go on then. So it was one of those things where you
Yeah.
just thought, actually, I'll
They
sacrifice a
always
bit of
try to
money
get
if
me
I
with
can have
that
a bar.
free
Oh,
drinks.
it happens everywhere, and then that was a long time ago.
Mm.
This is 12 years ago now. And then when they decided actually
Yeah.
drinks is probably not the most viable form of payment, and I agreed, doesn't pay the bills.
Mm.
Um, they upped it from 25 quid to 40 quid. Some of the venues I worked with were 50 quid. And even to this day, I don't think many, especially the sub 800 capacity sort of venues, are paying more than 50 to 100 pounds now. But if you're doing 5 nights a
Yeah.
week and you're happy to do 5 nights a week, you could be earning, £2 a month doing that. But
Yeah.
there's no longevity, for your sleeping pattern. You completely ruined. Like
Mm.
it took me a good 2 years to kind of sort my sleeping pattern out after doing 4 or 5 nights a week for 5, 6 years.
Hmm.
And then what I noticed was that pricing kind of leveled out as the return on investment kind of dipped. So no one's
Yeah.
tagging themselves in photos anymore, in nightclub photos, because it's not cool to be seen drunk on a night out anymore. It's we used to find that the albums for some of the nightclubs I worked at up until about 2013, 2014, before you could tag in comments, you could get people would actually physically tag themselves on the photo, which was, you look back and
Okay.
think, oh, that's really weird, because you click on their face
Yeah.
and their name would pop up. But because of that, we'd reach 30,000 people a weekend on engagement for free.
Yep.
And then Facebook has seen that as a money making tool. Right, we're going to bottleneck this, and they did. So the engagement went down from 30,000, 20,000, 10,000, 5,000. Like now, it's probably the reach of the album is probably the capacity of the nightclub now. So the stretch isn't there. But going back to the
Yeah.
whole pricing thing, I think starting now in 2022, you've got to weigh up a few things: the capacity of the venue, the amount of photos you're going to get, and the return on investment for the client. If you're going to
Mm.
going in at 250 quid for a venue that only holds 300 people, and you're only going to get 50 photos, they ain't going to do it.
Mm.
And again, if you're starting out, especially, and you haven't got necessarily a portfolio to fall back on, you're definitely not going to be able to charge as much as someone who's been doing it for nearly a decade. I know some nightclub photographers who are absolutely incredible. There's a chap called Will. He's in Switch, Southampton, and his photos. He's probably I would class him as one of the best nightclub photographers in the country. But he
Mm.
was also down in Boardmasters as well, so his festival content is
Yep.
also incredible. So he's got this almost this festival vibe in a nightclub.
Yeah. It's been unique, isn't it? Like I've kind of like moved away. Like I don't really like doing the pose shots, girls tits out, do smashed out there.
Yeah.
I don't really like those kind of pictures. I've moved it like there's a really good photographer, a nightclub photographer, really big in Poland. I can't remember his name, but it was with a K. I put his Instagram on screen now, but he's the way he set himself apart from the rest of the nightclub photographers who just like get a flash, boom, done. Is he does candid stuff. Like he doesn't use a flash. He uses the the lasers, the spotlights. I don't know the official name for them. The nightclub
Oh, the par
laser
cans and
thing.
moving heads and things
Yeah,
like that. Yeah.
the like spotlight things. He uses them to get some really nice kind of like romantic candid pictures. So like, there'll be a couple like kissing or something. It's really, really nice. And I've kind of taken that. And I've gotten some nightclubs coming to me saying, oh, no one's really doing that. So it's really about finding a way to kind of like set yourself apart, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everyone in the NAN can pick up a DSLR, stick like a 20 quid flash on it and go to a nightclub and say they're a professional nightclub photographer when half of it's underexposed and half of it's overexposed. Like you really got to find a way to set yourself apart. But it's interesting that, you mentioned that guy, how he's doing like kind of like festivals in nightclubs. Like that's a cool, and it just shows you, doesn't it? Like it all blends over. Like if
it
you
definitely does.
do one and it comes over. Like have you ever like kind of had any experiences with that? Like you've done nightclubs, but that's led to like maybe corporate work, festivals, that sort of stuff?
in a weird way, I worked for a company, so I sometimes get hired in as an extra cameraman, camera op sort of thing.
Yeah.
And we did an event in February, and it was fun enough. It was a corporate event about festivals. So because of
Okay.
the festival work we'd done, it was basically a big networking corporate event for the state of independent festivals. So festivals that aren't
Mm,
part of a brand or a chain. So
mm,
nothing like so Creamfields wasn't there because they're part of a chain, a
yeah.
brand, I should say. But Boomtown were there and Boardmasters were there because they're independent. So
Yeah.
it's one of those things where it's like, oh, I know half the people here. So it was, yeah. So sometimes it does link from one to the other. I'm in the middle of working with Stonegate, the bar, the nightclub chain. So they own
Mm,
Fever and Boutique. What do they own? Slug and Lettuce, Walkabout,
yeah.
and Pop World.
Huge.
That brand. So they own a
Yeah.
lot of places.
Mm,
And I'm in the middle of talking to some of them down here to do some VIP corporate training videos. So they've all kind of link. There's corporate in festivals. There's entertainment in corporate. There is a link. There's always a link somewhere, and
mm,
it's just making sure it's the networking that gets you them. If I'm being brutally
yeah.
honest. The manager who's come to me about doing this corporate work for the VIP training stuff used to be the manager of a nightclub that I used to work alongside with 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago.
Mm, it's
So
amazing that.
it comes around really rapidly, and
Yeah.
I think building up a good rapport with people is what gets you the work.
Yeah. Your network is your net worth, isn't it? Like the people
Mm.
you know is the amount of, well, yeah, your network is your net worth. In terms of people who you kind of like try and get in with, is there like in the corporate structure, the company structure, is there anyone that there is the decision maker? Is there anyone you kind of like go for first and then like fall back on, like if you can't get them, or
It's a weird one. So I get asked similar sort of questions quite regularly about, how do
mm,
you approach people for work? And I think sadly, in an age where everyone shouts enough about themselves, I
yeah,
don't think people are gonna. I don't think people really listen anymore. So
yeah,
if I was getting married and I'm after a wedding videographer, I'm going to go out of my way to look for a wedding videographer. I'm not going to expect a wedding videographer to come to me.
yeah,
Same with the festival content. I had a chat message me about how do I get involved with festivals like Boardmasters, NAS, Creamfields, and so on. I said,
hmm,
emailing their marketing team won't do anything. In
yeah,
2022, most of these festivals have been going 5, 10, 15 years. They've got their
mm,
team. They might change it, but it's down to them, and they won't change it based on someone emailing them. Um,
yeah,
you're more likely to get work emailing those production companies themselves. So finding out who
mm,
filmed the Boardmasters after movie, and
yeah,
then dropping them a message saying, "Hi, if you're looking for an extra pair of hands, I'm a filmmaker. I've got XYZ experience. These are my rates." You're more likely to get a response from that because they might not take you for that event,
oh, okay,
but they might have you for
yeah,
something else.
mm,
And it even goes the same with corporate stuff. So I do a lot of work with small businesses down at this time of year. So my weddings kind of disappear around middle October, and I don't
yeah,
restart my weddings again until after Christmas. So I focus on
mm,
small business videos in Plymouth. So that's stuff for Christmas related videos, promotional videos for things in the market, things in the high streets, and nothing. We're not talking like Primark or any major brands. I'm like
mm,
small, medium sized businesses that may or may not be a chain.
yeah,
Um, but I've always found that, and especially now, actually, considering we're in a massive credit crisis, these small businesses, especially, will not have any disposable income to spend 500 or 1,000 or 2,000, whatever it is, on you to make visual
mm,
content for them. They are sadly going to take their iPhone 12s or iPhone, whatever phone they've got, and make their own content, which totally don't blame them. Save your money. You work hard, and you push out your small business that way. But it's these medium to larger ones that where if they're not making as much money, they're going to push money into marketing.
yeah, yeah,
So spend money to make money.
mm,
So you'll never be able to phone up Coca-Cola and say, "Hi, I'm a filmmaker. Let me make you an advert." Like they would at most they would go out to tender and say, right, we're looking for 7 days of shooting to do this style of product, show us a show reel, here's the budget, and you tender that way. Even
Yep.
some of the clients I work with go out to tender. I mean, one of the clients I work with will put out a tender for anywhere from 5 grand to 25 grand for certain projects. And if I look at that and go, God, I'm not good enough for 25 grand's worth of work, am I? I can't quote that. That's insane money. But then you look at what they're after. It's 7 days solid filming, right? Okay, so that works out. What's 25 grand divided by 7? That was a bad bit of maths, wasn't it? But
I can pull up my calculator real quick.
But so you're looking at a few grand a day there. Do you need extra help?
Yeah.
Right. So your hired help is 200 odd quid a day minimum. Lighting, equipment. Are you renting out a venue, a studio? Then you've got to factor in editing time, admin time, licensing for music, effects, and so on. So it's a never-ending thing to think about. But when you're going out there and trying to get the work, it's worth networking with groups, because I've just set up. Well, I say set up. We set it up. Crikey, must have been nearly a year ago now. We've set up what's called the Southwest Creative Network, which is Cornwall, Devon, Dorset, and Somerset. And it's mostly full of photographers and videographers, mostly.
Yeah, I think I've come across that on my For You page. Not For You page, feed actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I threw it up a few times, and it's mostly photographers, videographers, some graphic designers, lighting guys, sound guys. There's even some script writers and directors in there, like a little bit higher up the chain.
Yeah.
But I often see posts in there of, hi, I'm a videographer, I need a second shooter to come with me, £150 a day, 3 days work, show me your best work, show me a show reel. Again, boiling down to networking. That's literally it.
Oh, it's my wife.
Oh, I think I've got you.
Right, there we go. Right. Yeah, I mean, in terms of, I mean, it's a funny one, isn't it? Like, it's no longer 2000 to 2010, where like face to face, it's all digital now. Like, I'm going to a networking event by Evie Pro. You probably know him.
Yeah,
G7s.
I know Reese. Yeah.
I went to I can never say it. Dime. I think it might be Dime.
Is it the event that he was at?
It's the one he runs.
Yeah.
DIEM.
Yeah, I think another one. I'm dyslexic. Don't ask me to pronounce it.
But it's called it Dime, right? So I went to Dime last year. I got a couple of interests, but since I'm not based down in London, there was nothing really changed. But he's now hosting one in Manchester, so I'm definitely going to that. But it's I wouldn't have found out about that if I wasn't on Instagram and following people on social media. And it's now, I think most of the networking you can do is online, like the reach you can get and the amount of people you can meet. Like I met you on Instagram. Like,
yeah, how we chat.
All of the people that I'm meeting. Yeah, all of the people I'm meeting on Instagram is through online. I mean, it's through Instagram and all this. And so like, have you kind of like got any success stories about meeting people or kind of like getting some big clients through online, like online presence or anything like that?
So I think so I've done a lot of festival work for either directly for the festival or through organizers. So like when my first what I call massive music festival or music event rather than festival was MTV Crashes down here in Plymouth. So that ran for 5 years and I worked on 4 of them of 5. The first 2 I was a volunteer, and the other 2 I was a paid client.
Yeah.
And that work. So I'm not working for the DJ. I'm not working for the band. I'm working specifically for the event organizer. And I've always said I've always wanted to do it the other way around. I've always wanted to kind of not necessarily travel, but I'd love to travel with some of these DJs. I don't think I could do the tour life forever.
Yeah.
But for this summer, I managed to get work through my festival work, but from DJs themselves. So they messaged me saying, "Hi, we see you're at Boardmasters. Would you be free to make content specifically for me and my set at this time on this day on this stage?" And I went, "Yes, absolutely. I'll do that straight away." And that was a 220 kid. He reached out to me. He was the first one that ever did. And I'm really, really grateful for that because I managed to make content specifically for him, photos, videos, like only like a 60-second Instagram reel, nothing, not like a massive after movie or anything, but he had an incredible set. And I think for me that felt a lot more impactful being able to work specifically for an artist because they've seen my work and said, actually, we like you. Can you come along and film for me specifically? We've seen your work for the festival as a whole, but we like what you do. Can we have you for ourselves? Basically.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's DJs a funny one for me. Like, I've gotten some, DJ sets who I'm specifically in their management. So if they ever need someone, they come to me. But it's a funny one. Like, I think they're moving away from kind of like the recap videos and the, like after movies and stuff, and they're just wanting, raw clips of behind them, of their set, because that's what does well on TikTok, Instagram, and all that sort of stuff. And personally, I feel like it could be kind of like crushing the industry a little bit, because they can go to anyone, but all right, yeah, 100 quid, you with the camera, come with me. It's like, what do you think about that? Like, how do you think it's ruining the industry a little bit, or because there's so much supply,
I
but
think
demand
it's
is there a little bit? Like, everyone wants to
yeah,
blow up,
100%. Everyone wants, I guess, 5 minutes of fame. I guess in this case,
Yeah.
but it's weird. So when we say ruin the industry, I think it's a case of changing rather than ruin, I guess. So
Yeah.
this summer specifically. So when I did Creamfields this year, I get tasked to almost make my own after movie. So I work alongside the
Hmm.
full production team that makes day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4 highlights every day overnight,
Yeah.
rapid. And there's a team of like 7 or 8 of them, and they absolutely smashed it. And there's a drone
Yeah.
company, there's a broadcast team, and everything else. So I work alongside them, the ground crew, and I get tasked at the end of the festival. I get about 2 weeks to use just my footage and the drone footage to make my own mini after movie. So about 2-3 minutes long,
Mm.
not like a 30-second highlights, but an actual a bit longer. So 2 or 3 songs broken down
Yeah.
into segments. And I've pitched to them, and I'm pitching for it for next year. I would love to be able to go back to the full form factor of 10 songs, like a minute each, like a 10-12 minute fully fledged after movie. So moving in, the big first party, then daytime again, people waking up, having something to eat, doing the makeup, all the
Mm.
whole story of, you watch the Tomorrowland videos, they're 20 minutes long. Like, and
Yeah.
people watch them all the way through because the music's good, the editing's usually really swish, the colors are lovely, and it gives you massive FOMO. That's the entire point of those
Mm.
videos, is they're all about
Yeah.
FOMO. However, return is what I said earlier about return on investment and engagement. Like, who the hell is now watching a 25-minute festival video that they didn't attend? How who
Yeah.
I watch them because it's my industry and I use it for inspiration. But if you're a punter and you've never gone to this event and you're not really interested, why are you going to watch it? Like, you're not going to watch it for advertising because you already know the event exists. So to say things are ruined, I guess it's more along the lines of attention spans have changed dramatically. People want quick, rough, raw, ready content to make it feel as if it's there
Yep.
and then, and not this over polished video. Because I had people comment on my Creamfields video saying, "Oh, this isn't a true recap of what happened. Where's all the people off their nuts?" And I went, "Yeah, I wasn't going to film that, was I? Like, that's never going to make the cut." But all jokes
Yeah.
aside, it's that whole, this is overly polished. This isn't what happened. This isn't the event. Like,
Mm.
it's a Boardmasters, again, another really good example. It was really dry. It was really dusty. There were mums all over Facebook saying, "You haven't given my child water." Child's 18 years old. Um, so the after movie doesn't show people basically dying out in sunstroke. No one actually died, but
Yeah.
it was one of those things, like, is it a true indication of the event? So I think it's not necessarily are these raw clips sort of things ruining the industry. I think it's, are they pandering to a changing engagement and audience? So TikTok has really pushed sub 60-second content massively,
Yep.
and
Mm.
even Instagram has to an extent. I'm not really versed in TikTok. I really don't have the patience. I'm 31 years old. I've got nearly a 14-year-old sister who is all over TikTok. She can have it.
Mm.
She can have TikTok. It's not my problem. But Instagram, I'm doing reels on the regular if I can, because I'm heavily on the video content. But
Yeah.
I think we're all falling down this rabbit hole of creating content because Instagram and TikTok tells us to make content. not because we want
Yeah.
to. So I will watch my last 2 reels will probably be quite apt for that. So someone did a video of them behind the scenes filming, and then a picture of them as a kid saying like look back at yourself, look how far you've come, you'd be proud, sort of thing. And I thought, oh, I could do that. I've got photos of me as like a 10-year-old. I could do that. And I thought, have I done that for me, or have I done that because Instagram tells me to do it, and Instagram is going to give me views because I've conformed to what they want?
Yeah.
But again, it was a weird one for that. So I put that up, and it did really well. First 24 hours racked up 3,000 views, and I thought, oh, that's all right. And then I thought, is it going to continue to snowball? Bottleneck, stopped,
Yeah.
completely stopped. And every reel I do, if it goes really, really well in a short space of time, it's almost like Instagram goes to it and looks at it and goes, oh, you've done really well out of that, but you haven't paid any money for it. We're going to stop now.
Yeah.
And then stop pushing it into the search feed, or the discovery feed rather.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, it's, are we as creators pandering to a changing audience, or are we pandering to what we think is an algorithm? Because when everyone says, oh, here's the new tips and tricks for the algorithm, I don't think anyone knows what the algorithm is. Because if they did, they'd all be Instagram famous.
Yeah.
You can't tell me how the rule book works if you're not winning by knowing what the rule book is.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to pay £100 a month for your Instagram algorithm course if it changes every 5 minutes and you're not Instagram famous yourself. You can't
Yeah.
preach. You can't if you're not practicing what you preach, in a way. I'm not going to necessarily listen.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes back to, be careful who you listen to. Like, I'm really pushing the Instagram, short form content. Some of it's done really well. And the only reason I'm doing that is because of Gary V. Do you know who Gary V is?
Sounds familiar.
Gary Vaynerchuk. So basically, he's like on top of the whole social media thing. He has been since like early 2000s. Humongous, like probably the biggest like marketing dude on
Oh, I
TikTok
think I
and
know who you
Instagram.
mean.
And
Yeah, I think I know the chap.
yeah. Russian dude living
Yeah.
in America. And like I only listen to him really. Like there's another dude who I sometimes listen to, but it's hilarious. Like he'll tell you to do something, but it never works. And it's like, is he pulling out of his behind, or is he? It seems to be all these fake gurus and stuff, and I see it sometimes in this industry as well. Everyone's trying to kind of like tell you how to do it and don't really know what they're doing. They don't really
I
even
mean,
have the
there's
experience to
always,
back it up.
yeah, well, that's exactly it. And there's always going to be a case of that it's not necessarily a rule book, is it? I guess, but there's always what I call the basic rules that most creatives, especially in a more commercial side of creativity. So art is always in the eye of the beholder, and I fully believe that. If you're when someone's selling, you're doing an art show and they've got a big white canvas and it's a big black spot in the middle, and that's art. I might not understand it, but it's still art. It's in the eye of the beholder. However, when it comes to the commercial side of art, so videography and photography, there are, I guess, certain rules that are probably right to follow. Like, if you're doing portraiture work, you can't give your client an out of focus portrait, regardless of how much you call it art.
Yeah.
There's certain things, and a good example will be using like I went on a LUT downloading spree when I was much younger. So I was quite fortunate that I discovered and started using LUTs about 8 years ago, and I really, really enjoyed using them quite early on. And they were awful back then. The cameras weren't proper log. Like S-Log was diabolical in 2000 and what's this 16, 17, 15, 16. Yeah, log was not great. And I was using some LUTs back then, but those LUTs don't work well, period. And if you're throwing LUTs on things that shouldn't have color changes, like I think I saw a wedding the other day that was clearly using one of those Sam Calder LUTs, the free ones from like 2014, and the dress is blue, like it's a teal and orange LUT, and it's changed the dress to be blue, not white. And there's a line. You can't tell me the couple's going to go, oh, I love that, my dress is now blue, not white. And that's not. There's a certain level of when it, especially color grading, again, it's an art, but white dresses should be white in a wedding sort of thing, generally speaking. That you can
Yeah.
tweak things, you can change things a little bit. I mean, make the sky a little sunnier, make the greens a little punchier, whatever you want to do. But when it gets to when it turns into unrealistic and not necessarily true, it becomes a bit of a problem in the commercial side of creativity, I find.
Mm.
I've had clients ask me to change my color tones on edits. Like, we don't like this, it's too saturated, or it's too dark, it's too light, the colors aren't right. Why are all the lights red when we know we've shot it all in orange? And that's maybe that's down to me using the wrong sort of LUTs, or not white balancing correctly at the time. It does
Yeah.
happen. But we always say the customer's always right, which 90% of the time I would agree with.
Mm.
And when it's things like that, I would certainly say, that's kind of the rule book, I guess. If their logo is red and, I don't know, red and blue, and you've somehow color graded it to be pink and purple, they ain't going to be happy about it.
They're really not. Somehow changing their branding for them.
Exactly. And I think for that side of creativity, there's always going to be a set of rules, I guess. Well, do's and don'ts, not even rules. Rules sound really regimented. Like, do's and don'ts, and things that, advisories, I guess, is probably a better sounding thing.
Yeah. I mean, especially, going back to the whole kind of like 5 minutes of fame thing, I think a lot of people getting started out, like when I was, first getting started with videos, like probably like 4 years ago, first discovered Premiere Pro, I was going crazy with LUTs. Like, oh my God, I thought I was the shit. Like, I saw my little shitty little Nikon DSLR outside, shot like my fucking goats and my dog, and just like brought it back. He's like, oh my God, I can now make them fucking purple. It's weird stuff. But I think that kind of like carries over. Like, if you kind of like around that kind of like, stage in your career, and you're not careful, and you send that to someone, not even, changing them to be like a purple alien, but like if they're blown out, the more like you got fake tan, the really orange and stuff. And I think that can really affect your work. Like, I've seen some people like be, not deep in the industry, but kind of like, they've got a name for themselves, but you can tell like a little bit, like the way they, edit their stuff is, it's almost like it's unrealistic a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
like the nightclub industry, I see a lot of people are shooting, the instead of trying to make like tell an actual story, they're trying to, shoot in 200 frames per second, really, ultra HD, 5K. Like, there's a certain point where you just got to tone that down. Like, it just get kind of, ruins.
Yeah.
Like, that's the wrong thing to focus on. Focus on, the storytelling, the editing, the pace of the edit, who you're actually shooting it for, not just, 200 frames per second and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's quite difficult. So, I mean, to put that kind of into context for me, it's I did when I did Creamfields this summer, everyone on the main production ground team was filming in 1080/50. Everything was 1080/50, and I was like, why are we not? We're planning to crop this for portrait, so why not shoot 4K and then crop it down the middle, and get that framing? And it was all to do with space. You've got, a dozen videographers all filming. Crack, if you all filmed that in 4K 50, you are going to fill up some SD cards and some hard drives pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Speed of the editing as well. Crikey, doing everything in 1080p must be so much faster for import, export, rendering, etc.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, it's just going to be viewed on someone's phone.
Yeah. It's not going to be, in an IMAX cinema. It's going to be on the little phone, and they're just going to scroll through it. Like, all that editing and, sweat and tears that you put into it.
Yeah,
the next video.
It's funny you say cinema. So I had a client this year. So I was doing work for a local college, and they needed a piece for cinema, which was, from an editing point of view, very difficult, because I've never processed anything for cinema before, and it's not as simple as just giving them an MP4. I wish it was. And you have to convert it to oh God, I want to say either a HEIFF image format or a HVEC, one of the two. It was an image. It was a still image format at 24 frames a second, which is annoying because I filmed the whole thing at 50.
Mm.
So you're converting straight away. So there's already a problem there.
Yeah.
But that's the only time where I've been like, oh God, actually, I do need 4K. Although they asked for 1080, minimum 1080 is what they ask for cinemas now, which is I found absolutely mind-boggling for cinema advertising that we're still saying minimum
Mm.
1080 when the screen is the size of someone's house,
Yeah.
or the projection rather.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I filmed it all in 4K 50, but then downscaled it to 1080 24, which sounds really terrible practice in hindsight. But it it worked. I did see it
Mm.
once in the cinema. I wish I'd seen it more because I would have critiqued myself probably a little harder and thought
Mm.
actually this is what it is and done this better and so on. But yeah, you'd find yourself. I filmed all of mine at Creamfields in 4K, going back to when
Mm.
the ground team filmed everything 1080. But I alone filmed 700 gigs worth of data over 4 days, and I thought, right, if you times that by 12, that's the other team. That's another 9 terabytes of data,
Yeah.
and we haven't got the time to process that. We haven't got the time to transfer that.
Yeah.
And the guys did incredibly well in such a short time frame. Like the videos got probably close to 500,000 views over 4 days, and they did really, really well. And the music choices they picked were brilliant. I was gutted because they picked music that I wanted to use in my video, but they did really well and they beat me to it. But it's always the way they like when you've got people who love dance music, you're going to find people like-minded who will pick the same sort of style as you, which is really, really
Yeah.
good. And that was what was really nice about working with those guys. And if anyone's interested, the team's called Film Tank. So film as in videography film, and then
Mm.
tank as in the war tank. And they're really, really good. And they've worked on some incredible projects. They work with Steve Aoki quite regularly. And
Ooh, he's a
which
big, he's
I'm
a big
looking,
name, isn't
he is quite a big name, and I look at the stuff they've done, and it's just amazing. Some of it's they did Tomorrowland with Steve Aoki and like another DJ called Third Party, and I follow this stuff religiously, and it's just
he? Mm.
mind-boggling. Like I look at those festivals. I looked at the Tomorrowland stage this year and just thought, wow, like it was
Mm.
just absolutely something out of this world, and they've done really, really well. And they even said to us, we were chatting in August about it, and again, much like myself, it just comes out of nowhere. You get
Mm.
1 or 2 gigs, and then someone takes a leap of faith with you, and then that's it. You're just there. I've been very, very lucky in that respect. The right people around me at the right time to give me the opportunity to do the work, and then take
Mm.
that work further, and then hopefully it's a case of, in a way, it's almost under promise and over deliver.
Yeah.
These people have no idea. I've never done like a restaurant shoot before, but my friends have just opened a restaurant. They think I can do it. Okay, I'm not promising them anything because I have no idea what I can produce, but then I've given them something and
Yeah.
they're really, really happy with it, and now I have this amazing restaurant content.
Yeah. Yeah, like it just goes to show, doesn't it? Like if you've got really good, like you're only as good. I say you're only as good as your last gig. Like that,
Yeah,
you don't know who's watching your work. Like I've got a little, do you know like a Google, what is it? A Google Business panel? Like when the
yeah,
Google Business it's got like the little panel on Google. I've got
mm,
one of those, and this month, like it was like 4 people clicked on my phone number and saved it. Like you never know, I don't know who's got my number saved as Jack the Videographer in Manchester. Like you never know who's watching your work. Like, or even just looking through your Instagram, if they're gonna, want to hire you.
mm,
Could be anyone. And like I've got 2 sports shoots in November. Like I've never shot, sports boxing. I've never shot that, but I haven't told them. But like I'm gonna see what I can produce. And your skills kind of just boil over, don't they? Your
mm.
cameraman skills, I guess you could say, the way you work a gimbal, shoulder rig, all this sort of stuff, and the way you edit. Like, if you haven't shot anything before, it's not the end of the world because you still got those core skills. Kind of like you can look at other people's work and like just, kind of like learn how to do it, if you know what I mean, without actually having like a portfolio for it.
Yeah. I think we're quite lucky in specifically people younger than me now, where a
Yeah.
lot of people in their 20s are starting their own businesses, not just creative business, but business generally. So COVID was the start of people creating lots of creative businesses. So I know people who
Yeah.
started selling crochet stuff. I know people who are starting baking and things like that. And all these things have started. And I think you, as a creative, we have the ability to help them out, to help ourselves out as well. So
Yeah.
a good friend of mine was a baker in her spare time. And I said, I want to do more business from home style video. So I said, well, I'll tell you what, make me a selection of breads to take home, and I'll do your video,
Mm.
and it was one of those things. So you can definitely transfer your skills from other things that you've almost mastered in a way, well, not necessarily mastered, but
Mm.
close to, and then transfer that into another industry.
Yeah.
For me, I could the stuff I learned in the nightclubs means my evening party photos at a wedding are brilliant. Like, I think they're some of my
Mm.
favorite photos at a wedding because I know what's going on. There's high speed lighting, bright, colorful lights. It's dark because it's basically a nightclub, and people are
Mm.
just singing at the top of their lungs and dancing the night away. And it's what I
Mhm.
spent 5-6 years doing.
Yeah.
So it links more than people realize. So
Yeah.
the festival stuff links to the nightclub stuff really well. And in a weird way, the festival stuff links to the weddings in a
Mm.
weird way. People getting ready. I do a lot of content for. We had I want to say Shein. Shein, is it the clothing brand Shein? Makeup brand Shein. They were one of the sponsors at
Mm.
Creamfields, and they had a stand and they were doing all the makeup and stuff. But again, that is the same sort of shots I would get of the bride getting ready in the morning. It's the similar content. It's just in the middle of a field rather than a country house.
Yeah.
It's same but different.
Mm. Yeah, so it's funny you mentioned that. You've got the same thing. You've got in a weird sense, you've in your subconscious, you've just got a short list. Right, I need to get that. Like, 'cause you've been doing it for so long. And from my personal experiences, like I got my first ever international job this summer. I've got booked in Sunday Beach, Bulgaria, go film, like, a lot of events, nightclubs, that sort of stuff. And towards the end of it, like, I did a video on this, and I just lost my creativity. I was in the nightclub basically every single day. It was a big change from what I'm used to, and that's doing it over and over and over and over. I just lost my creativity. Have you ever, experienced that? Like, and if you have you gotten it back?
Oh, to me that kind of talks to that more almost about like imposter syndrome in a way.
Mm.
Yeah, and I suffered appallingly from creator's block at times and
Oh,
imposter
yeah.
syndrome. And I've
Yeah.
just started sorting out my show reel for this year. So I do an annual show reel
Mm.
of, it's not supposed to be like a book me, I'm Jay Stone photography and video, bam bam bam, I do corporate, but it's not like that sort of show reel.
Yeah.
It's a little highlights reel. It's 2.5 minutes long. It's my favorite clips throughout the year, set to some really fun music, a fun bit of re-editing, a bit of jigging around and tweaking things. But I have spent 4 weeks trying to pick the music, and it is impossible. I cannot like, usually I find a song and I'm just like, bam, that's it. I'm having that.
Yeah.
It's great. It's got a good build up, so I can use the slow bits for corporate stuff and B-roll, and then it's got a big, powerful, like a progressive drop. So it's, like Avicii's got something powerful and happy and uplifting.
Yeah.
So great for my festival content. But
Mhm.
I've done so many different trials and errors and recuts of songs for the last 4 or 5 weeks, and I think I
Yeah.
might have settled on it last night, but it's a creative block, and you're just sat there going, this needs to be as good as the last video I made, and if it's not, I'm
Mm.
failing. But it's not the case. Like, it's someone shared with me a almost like a picture of someone climbing a mountain, and this guy's got he's looking at this, he's in the dip of this mountain going back up again. He's like, oh, I've fallen down, I've got to climb all the way back again. But he's come all the way down from nothing. So, for
Yeah.
me, the peak things in my editing career, I like to think I get better each year. I'd hope I get better each year, and if I'm not, then I'm not doing as
Mm.
well as I should. But for as long as I'm not doing worse than I was last year,
Yeah.
I'm not improving. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So I like to think my Creamfields video this year was better than last year's. I think my
Yeah.
wedding content this year is better than last year's. And it's hard to kind of get past a creator's block. And my creator's blocks always seem to sit around music. finding the right tone, the right vibe for weddings as well. Oh, it's one of the hardest things in the world, finding wedding music.
Yeah.
You know, it's all the same soft like soft piano stuff or strings, and I
Yeah.
want something that's got a nice build up, a nice sort of, not orchestral, that sounds a bit too over the top, but it's classical, it's nice, it's uplifting, it's happy. But
Yeah.
I feel like I'm gonna, in about 5 years' time, unless people are making more music than I am making wedding videos in terms of they're the same style, I'm gonna run out very quickly.
Yeah.
Because I've seen a lot of wedding stuff where the music's either pop music, so chart music, so that's going to be muted on YouTube straight away, so you can't use that for your portfolio. Um, I used to do that. I used to use music from their first dance or what they walk down the aisle to, and then I realized that I can't, because every single time it gets muted on Facebook or YouTube. So I can't even use them. So I moved to copyright-free music, but then I'm there literally just scrolling for hours, like in a death stare, saying I've heard this song 100 times, I swear.
Yeah.
And that's where my creative blocks really get to. So for me, I'll take a step back, look at the footage potentially, and see if there's a slightly different vibe that I've grasped from it. So I might have been looking for like dubstep or drum and bass for the Creamfields video, but then looking back at all my footage, most of the artists were playing music that's either 125 to 135 BPM, which is house and garage and techno. So it's kind of got to be more that genre. So I look back and think, actually, no, it makes more sense to do that than it does to go with the original instincts with it. But then weddings, yeah, they're all quite mellow, somber, happy.
Yeah.
I've only had one wedding where I went out of my way and made a separate little video of the dancing and the drunk antics in the evening, because they were so much fun. And I
Yeah.
said I can't not do this. I've got so much great footage that wouldn't fit in my traditional highlights, but it would fit. Here's another 1 minute video of you guys all having a wonderful drunk party in the evening, like a mini nightclub thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, creative block it happens weekly, easy. Like it is honestly 90% of the time it's got to be music. It has to be. I was editing a Halloween video this weekend from Saturday night, and I was like, what on earth
Yeah. I
am I going
saw
to
that. I
use?
really like that. That was a really nice video.
Yeah, it's come out all right, and they're uploading it to I've put bits of it on my Instagram, but they're uploading the video on their socials tonight. And because they're obviously doing Halloween again, as it is Halloween today.
Yeah.
So it's again, I spent about 45 minutes to an hour going, right, am I using commercial music? If so, what sort of feeling is it going to be? Like techno? Is it going to be progressive house? Is it going to be uplifting? Is it going to be scary? Is it going to be dubstep? Whatever. Or am I going down the road of horror style music, like something out of Saw or a slasher film or something like that? So
Yeah.
that's where my creative block always sits, and it's so annoying.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I've kind of had some different ways of getting around. Like, what's the main way you get around it? Like, do you just plow through and you just keep going, or do
Sometimes
you
it
have to
just
kind of like do
clicks.
something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes plowing through it will just click, but I find that plowing through could be as long as you've already been pondering on music or edits and so on. But for me, it's almost like finding a workaround. So I'm trying a different sort of intro for my highlights reel this year. I want to try and use an old-fashioned CRT telly, and either do I find the effect on a stock website and buy it? Do I do that? Do I do it myself? Can I find a CRT television? Like, it's
Yeah.
all these creative blocks. You think, right, and you write down what the problem is, or what your end result is, and you've got to work out how you're going to get there. So I thought, right, I need to do this shot with a CRT television. Do I buy one? Looks on eBay. They're stupidly overpriced because there's not many left, because they're all broken, or or they're in tips or whatever. So I can't do that. So that's a waste of time and waste of money. Have a look online. Are there any stock clips? Are they any good? Are they just a generic box telly on a green screen? If they are not any good, I need something a bit more. Do I want something with an animation? So someone coming along and pushing the button, turning it on to that sort of effect. I mean, I don't know how old you are, Jack, but I mean, I remember the days of those big horrible CRT televisions where they would turn on and turn off. So I whittled it down to a few ideas, and I've got a few project files through some of my stock websites, through After Effects and things like that, and where I'm going to try them out. But again, I've hit that creative block. How do I do this? This is what I envision in my head. How do I make it possible? How do I make it so? Again,
Mm.
what's the end result? How on earth do I get there? If route 1 doesn't work, try route 2. If route 2 doesn't work, try route 3. And if you've exhausted all routes, try something else, maybe.
Mm. So yeah, I mean, going looping back to the festivals and Creamfields thing, I want to ask you, how did you get in with that? Like, I know, have you been doing it for quite a while, or like, how did you
So
get into the festival? Because Creamfields is massive. Creamfields is on my, like, kind of, I've got like a hit list of people and places
you're
I
up the
want to
road,
film.
really, aren't you? You're up the road for Creamfields in the grand scheme of things. You're
Yeah,
quite close,
Manchester.
aren't you? Yeah. So I'm 200 and 300 miles away down in Plymouth. So it's a bit of a, why on
Mm.
earth would a
A
Plymouth
bit of a trek, isn't
videographer be
it?
working almost an event in Liverpool, effectively?
Mm.
And to cut a long story short, so I worked with a drone and ground videography company, and they've
Mm.
done some work in Plymouth. They do a lot of the security style crowd management drone content, and they did a lot of drone
Yep.
content for MTV Crashes back in the day. And I stayed in touch with them, and every time they came down for like our Armed Forces Day event, which is 50 or 40,000 people on the Hoe, on Plymouth Hoe. But that's what but some people don't know what the Hoe is in Plymouth. I need to clarify. It's a big open patch of grass in Plymouth called the Hoe. It's not rude.
Mm.
I had to explain it to my nan once, and it was, though they're doing all these amazing aerial content, and I stayed in touch with them, and they
Mm.
asked me if I was, originally was supposed to do Creamfields in 2020. Shock horror,
Mm.
didn't happen. Much like every other event that year.
Yep.
And then they
Thanks,
said,
COVID.
"Oh, don't, honestly, it was a disaster." But we'll talk about that one in a minute.
Yeah.
But and then it came to June, end of June, start of July 2021. I get the email through from that company, and they say, "Jay, we'd like to have you for the Creamfields 21 team. We just need ground content, behind the scenes video, and so on." So I worked specifically for that video company, not for the festival that year,
Mm.
to create content for the production company, not for the festival.
Yep.
However, because the production company was working really closely with the ground videography team a bit more as well at the festival, I kind of worked with both a little bit in the end. So I made a little edit, I gave it to the festival, they used it, and then the festival got in touch with me directly this summer and said, "Jay, we'd like you to do what you did that time, but for us directly. Would that be something you'd be
Mm.
interested in?" I went, "Absolutely. Just give me that AAA pass and I would do anything." It's one of those sort of
Oh, I
things.
love
And
those passes. You can go anywhere. Oh, here you
I've
go. No, no, no. Right, let me straight through.
yeah, and it's just, people look at you and then there are some times where those passes don't work. So this year, who had a close set? Calvin Harris, no one on stage at all, no one at all,
Yeah.
and which is fine. And yeah, Calvin Harris is one of the biggest names in dance music ever.
Mm.
And the size of the crowd, I've never seen anything like it. I was up on the VIP
Mm.
stage because we had a proposal, funnily enough, that we kind of co-orchestrated through the festival. So someone was proposing, and they did a video up on the big screens and everything else. And this girl had none the wiser until it happened. But I was up on the VIP stage, and I have never seen a crowd so big in my life for that sort of
Mm.
thing. But again, these festivals, if they're contacting you direct, they're obviously taking a gamble with you. Are you professional enough to not try and wing your way up on the stage of Calvin Harris and
Yeah.
flying your pass around saying, "Look at me, I'm VIP or I'm
Mm.
AAA." And I've been called out by my friends on many occasions because I've been an absolute idiot when it comes to things like this. Where I've photo of my wristband, like got my phone out and gone, "Oh look, I've got my wristbands." Ooh. And you just think, no, don't do that, because if someone takes a copy of it, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Like, they might not necessarily know that they've got the copy off of you, but if the festival saw that you've been showing off your accreditation, I would strongly advise taking it down very rapidly, because especially if you
Yeah.
tag the festival in it, they're going to see you straight away.
Oh,
And it happens. Like, I know people who have snuck into festivals before, and I'm sat there going, "How'd you do that?" "Oh, copied a wristband, copied a lanyard." No one's, but they're not going to look in absolute detail at your lanyards or your
yeah.
wristband. So it's a case of, don't do it. like most security guys will call you out on it. They'll look at it and go, that looks absolutely awful. Why? How? That's not even legit. And that's last year's wristband. Like, you know, but no, I got involved with them primarily with the ground and the drone production company from 2021. They sadly weren't part of the team for 22. The ground company was a different, the ground and streaming company were a different set. Sorry, I meant drone and streaming, not drone and ground. Drone and streaming, and then
Yep.
ground company, two groups of people. Where this year I was involved with the ground videography team.
It's amazing that, like, again, it just goes to show, no one really knows who's looking at your work. Your last
No.
piece of work's just always reflecting you.
Yeah, it is.
In terms of
it's good.
Yeah, in terms of getting clients, I always tell this story. I think it's an amazing story. So there's a DJ based out in Miami, Florida that I follow on TikTok, and I've been following him for quite a while now. And I mean, before he blew up, he was literally a nobody. He was just your average DJ playing popular remixes, didn't really produce anything, didn't really have any big hits, but he's got a little series. So he's got a residency at this beachfront like club. Like they've got little pools, like palm trees and stuff. And he was messing around with TikTok, and he's got this little series on TikTok where he's like types of clubbers, and like a couple of them have blown up like 1, 2, 3 million views. And through that, like one of the head people in this really big record label company, I think they're in America, literally was scrolling through TikTok. His video came up on their For You page. And it's like, oh, this guy's a bit of a DJ. Let's check him out. And he clicked his socials and he liked his work. Oh, he's in the area. Let's do it. So again, it doesn't really, you never know who's watching your work, and just the power of social media, I guess. Like he literally blew because of TikTok.
100%. Like it's for me, it's I mean my Boardmasters stuff really took off last year more so than it did this year. Again, because of hashtags, because of networking with people. Like the people at the event come up to us all the time. It's like, oh, can we have a photo? It's like, you can, but how are you gonna find it? Like, what are you gonna do? And they went, oh, can you just like send it to us? And I thought, actually, yeah, I probably could. Like, I've got no problem with that. I'm gonna edit the best photos anyway. Like, that's people, that's DJs, that's decor, that's bands, that's stage, it's fireworks, whatever it might be. I'm editing all of it. And then I just throw it into a Google Drive folder and just say, oh, and they message saying, oh, well, you took a photo of us on day one, right? Here's my day one folder. Here you go. Help yourself. And discovered because they looked for hashtag Boardmasters or hashtag Boardmasters 2021, and they found my posts from Boardmasters 2021. And they might have messaged about all 20 photographers that were at Boardmasters. I've never known a festival with so many photographers in my life like there is Boardmasters. It's absolutely chaotic at the best of times, and it's because there's so many of us. There was so many, and you're allowed the first 3 minutes, first 3 songs in the pit, and then you're kicked out, and then you go off and photograph whatever you want to do after that. But these festival goers, they could have messaged any one of us, and it's just lucky that they messaged the right one. I could have been the 5th one they messaged, I don't know, but I just said, yeah, I think I took you a photo. Do you know roughly what day it was and where it was? And yeah, they discovered me again via the hashtags, and they thought, oh, well, I wonder if this was the photographer. Let's message him and see what happens.
In terms of the nitty-gritty sort of stuff, like, do you ever try get them to tag you? Because if you can get tagged by like them, I'm sure, like, no matter who it is, Boardmasters, their official account, or even random fucking Sally Pansy Pants who's taking your picture and put it on their Instagram, spreading your name, isn't it? Like, do you try get them to tag you or what?
I find it used to make a huge amount of difference. Now I don't know if it does anymore. So in 2016, we had MTV Crashes down here. We had Afrojack, Example. God, we had some quite pretty hefty names. And Afrojack retweeted my photo of him, which generated me. This is in 2016. This generated me about 200 followers overnight, which sounds great, but when he's got 2 million followers, it's proportionally, it's not a lot. I mean, a free follower is a free follower. I'm going to take it. And And then Example, on the other hand, sent me a direct message. He saw my photo. He sent me a direct message with his email address saying, "Hi, mate, can you send these emails over?" Example is one of the only artists I know that still manages his own social media. He doesn't have like an agency. Well, I think he has he obviously has marketing people and so on, but he isn't corporate controlled.
Yeah.
And he dropped me a message with his personal email address saying, "Can you send us the photos?" I went, "Yes, of course I can." Like, I'm not going to say no to this, am I? And he signed it with it like Elliot, and I went, "Ah, he signed it with his real name. Like, this is
Yeah.
weird." And then he uploaded a couple of them and tagged me in it. And this is when my Instagram had like 500 followers, and that tipped me over from 500 to about 1,200 in 2 days. But now I find it does absolutely nothing. So
Yeah.
my photos got reposted by the Creamfields page, which is several. I think that's like 70 or 80,000. It might even be more than that actually. 1,000 followers of that one. The artists have reshared photos like from my page. They've reshared the post to their story. So
Yeah.
I'm like, oh god, that's giving my post the extra engagement. Gets me maybe like 10% extra. I think we're in an era now where the end viewer is interested in what the post is, not where it's come from.
Yeah.
Because I'm terrible at it, so I'll be on Instagram Reels, right, and looking at, oh, I've seen this cat video before, but it's been re-uploaded by another account, but I'll still like it because I found it funny. I don't care where
Yeah.
the accounts come from. It's the same funny video I've seen 7 times before. So if they've seen this photo of Martin Garrix 7 times before, they're going to like it wherever it is, but they're not interested in following where it came from because they're already
Yeah.
following Martin Garrix. They're not going to, unless you're a big, like their photographer. So a good example will be Martin Garrix's photographer, actually is a really good example. Lewis Van Bar. He's really, really good. Like incredible. I've never known a photographer to get those sort of shots at a festival, like the fire, the CO2, the sparks, all fireworks, all of it. And he was at MTV Crashes that year when we had Martin Garrix in 2017, and I had no idea I was stood next to him. Literally no idea. And we took almost the same photo, must be seconds apart. And funnily enough, I edited my photos overnight. I had to get them done really quickly. He did his in a couple of days, and I had no idea. And I looked side by side, and I thought, "Oh my god, these are really similar." But free guesses which one gets more engagement. Martin Garrix's official photographer or the events photographer. It makes sense that the DJ's photographer is getting all the attention because the DJ is the one who uploaded them. The DJ is the one who's tagged the photographer, and then obviously the photographer's uploaded them himself.
Yeah.
And Martin Garrix fans are absolute diehards, like massively. So they've got that almost cult following anyway.
Yeah.
So, and another good example of my friend Callum. So I met him, I much like ourselves here through socials. But he started off as, gosh, I think he was Example's tour photographer one year, like 5, 6 years ago, and then got picked up by Little Mix and went on tour with Little Mix. And he went from like 4,000 followers to like 30,000 in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Because not only has he got all 4 of them individually dropping their photos, you've got the bands, the actual band page dropping the photos as well. So he's got 5 times the reach, millions of people per person. And they're all tagging. So it does work sometimes. It does work if you are their photographer. I
Yeah.
think. If you're a random, a good example would be again like the DJs that we have at these nightclubs. They'll use your photos. Absolutely, they'll tag you in brilliant. Does it generate you work? Potentially. Does it generate you followers? Less likely. I think I'm more likely to generate work from a tag than I am
Yeah.
followers now. Like I'll get a couple, but I'm not expecting my account to blow up overnight.
Yeah.
My friend Katie, she's an artist, and she does these incredible drawings, and her latest post on Reel got 50,000 views overnight, which is incredible numbers. She got 12 followers. And it's because people are not then they're disassociating the content and the creator now. They're more interested in what the content is. They don't care who we are, which sounds really sad. But I genuinely don't think there's this, unless you're a persona creating bringing out the same thing personally. So you're talking, you're followed for your content is about you, not the work. For me, it's all about my work. so people are only going to be interested in those posts. They're not interested in necessarily me as a person, which is fine. I'm fine with that, because I'm not necessarily the most interesting of people. All like, my hobbies are boring. I've got fish tanks and I game, hence these. So I'm not the most interesting person outside of my work. So I don't talk
Yeah.
about myself too much there. So there's nothing to really follow from a personal perspective. So I guess again, it's that dissociation of content and creator.
Yeah. I mean, it's a funny time to be alive, isn't it? Like, I've had a couple TikToks blow up like over 100K,
Wow.
and I've probably got 100 followers on TikTok. Like,
It's just weird, isn't it? It just doesn't add up.
yeah, I think it's just they're so detached from, like you said, the person who's actually making it, unless you're, really big, like, oh, okay, who's this? But they just scroll. Like everyone's got, well, most people, especially like my age, has got the attention span of a fucking goldfish.
Oh, we're all awful for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's about just kind of attention's king, isn't it? Like, just you need to grab their attention and then just go from there.
And
But
hold
I'm
on
probably
to it.
going to get flamed in the comments if I don't ask this. Like, how much can you probably get paid for festival work, like at your level?
Do you want my honest
level
opinion? It's
yeah.
not about the money, because if it was, we'd all be very poor. The money
I suspect that kind of
fluctuates.
answer.
The money fluctuates from festival to festival, and from and country to country, actually, and the size of the
Yeah.
festival. So I when we had a festival down here in Plymouth for the first time ever, it was called One Big Summer. Brand new festival, never happened before. It's been delayed and delayed because of COVID, and it's finally happening. 3-day event, and they said, right, you want overnight videos, overnight photos, here's your budget, go for it. I got more in one day of that event than I did for the entire weekend of Creamfields. But the difference is that I had my own team for One Big Summer, and I had to pay out for other people, and I was responsible for a lot more content, so the pay was kind of justified. Whereas for Creamfields, I'm supplementary footage for the ground team. I'm the same as everybody else there. I've not got necessarily any particular special treatment other than my own edit at the very, very end, which is a separate thing altogether. And then on the flip side, you've got someone like Boardmasters, which I did as press effectively. And on the off chance, I had 2 DJs message me saying, "Hi, we know you're on site today. Could we pay you to be our particular content creator on that day?" Which then I went from getting minimal pay as press to then getting actually a nice bit of money on the side for doing those 2 DJ sets, set of content for them. So it is really weird. Like, it's, how much you get paid is how long's a piece of string. It'll really fluctuate. I love dance music, so Creamfields to me, they could honestly, they wouldn't have. I'm not going to say that because they might not pay me next year. They could pay me. They don't have to pay me that much because I really enjoy it, but they also understand that you have to make a living, you have to buy food, you have to pay for petrol. Like, it took me nearly 6 hours to get there. It's worth it, like hella worth it. I love the dance music scene. It's right up my street. And it's always been the pinnacle of my career to kind of get to those high level of dance music festivals. So it was one of those things where I just thought, you know what, whatever they're going to pay me, I'm just going to take it, which is not great. And it's not good advice, I would say, to anyone. But when you're starting out, some pay in a way is better than no pay, but know your worth. Like, I know if I was offered Creamfield, say 10 years ago, I would not have been ready for it. And as much as I would love to have taken it, I wasn't there. I wasn't. My ego was through the roof. I was really bad for that sort of stuff. I was, all I was doing was nightclub stuff at the time, but my ego was through the roof because I was constantly surrounded by all these amazing, fun people all the time. They're like, "Oh, Jay, let's have a photo," all the time, constantly in demand. It really, gives you a big head. And I realized if I'd got that sort of gig, that could have made my ego even worse. So moving away from that, I toned it down, and I thought, actually, if I get paid money to be at the gig of a lifetime, then amazing.
Like, I've done work for free, I mean, I've done work for free starting out, but I still do not quite a bit, but I still do work for free, if it will lead to
Mm,
future work, if it's something that I can use as a springboard, like
yeah,
I've done a couple of DJ sets for free if it means I get in with their management, like, and it's not that they have money, it's that, that is a massive opportunity because of who they know, like the reach on social media and that sort of stuff. So it's just about, I mean, for this industry, I feel like people don't really have, a set, all right, oh, what do you charge? Okay, I can charge this and this, because I feel like it's always fluctuating,
yeah.
especially, with who it is, what kind of videography it is. So I always like, you kind of like have your industry standard, like for nightclub, I've kind of found like it's on average, like if you get booked for a nightclub to film it, I find that it's around £300 on average.
That's
Like you
about
can
right.
go,
That's
yeah,
about right, especially when it's rapid turnaround as well.
yeah,
Like I've done 24, I've done less than 24-hour turnaround on some of these pieces.
mm, yeah,
And they're only 30 seconds long. It's not going to take me that long.
yeah,
But it's you. Someone said to me, you should always try and send your clients this. I'm not actually. Don't ever send your clients this. I've always wanted to, but it's this age-old joke. You've got three things. You can either have it quick, you can have it cheap, and you can have it good.
mm.
Pick two.
Oh,
If
I
you,
wish I could say that.
I would love to
That's
say that.
amazing.
So yeah, you can have it. Yeah, you can have it quick, you can have it cheap, and you can have it good. Pick two of them. If you want it good and you want it cheap, it ain't gonna be quick.
Mm,
If you want it
yeah,
quick and you want it cheap, it ain't gonna be good. If you want it
yeah.
quick and good, it ain't gonna be cheap.
I'm trying to get myself in a position where I can kind of have, like, I'm sick of like cheap clients. Like they do my head, and they want, like you said, that they want all of this for not the best pay. So I'm trying to find a way to move to more kind of like, not bigger clients, but more clients who value us. Like,
Yeah.
how did you do that? Like, how did you move away from, your random fucking nightclub to, ones who appreciate, it's not even like it's a big one, people who appreciate and set aside kind of like the budget and stuff for, for who we
Yeah.
are.
I think for me, weddings would be the best example of this. So the first
Yeah.
wedding I ever did 5 years ago. Yeah, 5 years ago. I did it for a friend, and it was roughly 500 quid. But I didn't advertise weddings. I wasn't selling myself as a wedding photographer. I wasn't saying anything like that at all. I did one wedding, and then there was someone who got engaged about a week before that wedding, who then booked me again for another wedding. And I thought, right, if I use that couple as an engagement shoot, use the other wedding as a portfolio, then start advertising, set your prices and get away from what I'd call lower paying clients and work your way up the ladder. I mean, I still
Yeah.
do work with clients that are paying 100, 200, 300 quid because they're friends, they're small businesses. It's all about keeping
Mm,
yourself grounded in a way. Like I know production companies in the southwest that will be like, no, we're not going to touch that gig. It's below us. It's belittle us. And it's like, well, no, hang on. Don't forget where you come from. Don't forget where you came from,
yeah.
sort of thing. Have a bit of, I guess, be a bit more humble. Be a bit of modesty. We've
Mm,
all I agree we all start somewhere, and I agree we should never forget where we came from and where we started out and who got you there. So, but going back on topic of pricing for weddings, for me, I realized, right, do I want to do 50 or 20 weddings a year at £1,000, or do I want to do 10 weddings a year at £2,000? I would rather do 10 weddings a year at £2,000, and then I've got the other 10 Saturdays a year to do anything else.
yeah.
But the way you do that is, I guess you just gotta. It is a constant portfolio build, especially for weddings. It's portfolio, portfolio, portfolio. Uh, Social networking massively. All my weddings are literally coming through Facebook.
Mm,
Not much through Instagram yet, but I think we're going to see a shift in the next 5 years towards Instagram as the people on Facebook are just getting too old and they're not getting married.
yeah.
Um, and the average age of Instagram sitting around that 20 to 30 age, which is prime wedding clients right now, where
Yeah.
Facebook is sitting somewhere in the mid 40s.
Mm,
They're all married, they're done on Facebook. Their time is up. So it's now
yeah.
time to move onto Instagram for weddings. And it's I guess I just up my prices every year and hope that somebody books me. But the
Mm,
thing with weddings, I find the more I'm charging the harder the weddings are getting in terms of, I
Yeah.
think their expectations are getting higher. Whereas corporate work, I had a client in April, March, and it was for a go-karting company, and it was the best 2 or 3 days we've ever had. We had a day of testing. So we had an FPV drone. My friend Ryan came down from Torquay and flew an FPV drone whilst one of us was driving a go-kart as a practice. We had a whole day of basically just messing about with go-karts, fixing 360 cameras, GoPros, all of this kit to these go-karts. So we had a day of that, and then we had a day of filming and a day of photography.
Yeah.
And it was 4.5 grand. And I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. And like, it is really good. And Ryan, I gave Ryan, what did I quote him? I think I said, Ryan, buy yourself 2 more batteries for your drone. So we've got more drone stuff, and I'll give you £1,000 and we'll do that. Whatever's left, we'll work out whatever. They paid up as soon as they got the edit. Cool. Thanks. Brilliant. Done. And I'm sat there going, what? That's really easy. Like, that felt like almost too easy to get paid that quickly, because that never really happens. But I find
Yeah.
the
Oh
the
my God.
corporate gigs like that, yeah, well, it doesn't happen all the time. Christ, we've
Oh
all.
man.
You must
I've
have seen
got
my Halloween costume post about how does not include being paid on time.
fucking finance just passing your invoice around. Oh yeah, I've just sent it
Yes,
to
sorry,
someone
I lost
higher
that
up.
one. Yeah, can you
Oh
send it
my
again,
God.
please? You've lost it. Yeah. But the higher paying the corporate client is, I find the less trouble I have.
Mm,
And I'm not I don't get trouble with weddings. Trouble's the wrong word. But the less questions I get, the less changes and tweaks. Whereas with weddings, the more expensive it gets, the more, oh, have you got any more photos of this? Have you got any better
yeah.
clips of this? And I'm like, I have, but they're not as good as the ones I've already given you. As a wedding photographer,
Mm,
I will give the best photos and the best video because that's what I'm here for. Like, you wouldn't
yeah.
possibly want to give them. I'm not holding back on your own wedding.
Mm.
I'm not holding the wedding photos back for me. Like, it doesn't benefit me.
Yeah.
Um, but where weddings are a case of it's getting higher expectations with higher cost, where
Yeah.
corporate, they're already paying you a high level of money, so they've already got those expectations. They're already set.
Mm,
They're not likely to go up any higher, I find, because the corporate expectations are already there. So
yeah.
they know you've done your job. They're happy with it. Here's the money. Let's carry on.
Mm,
Yeah, I get tweaks and stuff, but the first edit is always included. The second edit is usually the tiniest of tweaks. Hi, you've got a spelling mistake on the website, or here's our new logo instead.
yeah. Yeah.
Little things like, oh, can we just swap this one clip for another? That's nothing. If they say, hi, can we change all of the music, please,
Mm,
and start the whole edit again? Because I edit to the music, to the beat. I was like,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's gonna take me like another 3 days. Can you like pay?
Mm.
um, but again, it's really hard to kind of price yourself in a really competitive world. And I get people asking me like, how do you price yourself? And I say, right, you've got to do this, this, and this. Always make sure you're allowing for 20% tax,
Yeah.
because you're not PAYE. You've got to take that out of your money at the end of the year. And as you go along, they're not paying for your 12 hours on site. They're paying for your 10 years experience prior to that to be able to do the best 12 hours on site you possibly can.
Yeah.
Um, they're not employing you for 12 hours and paying you for that. They're paying you to be the best you are, which is,
Yeah.
tomorrow's version of me is better than I am today, because I would have learned something at least today. I would have thought, even through this conversation, we've learned something.
Hmm.
And therefore, tomorrow you are a better videographer than you
Yeah.
were yesterday. And
Mm,
you will continue to grow. Your skill set will always grow. You'll never lose skills.
mm,
At worst, you stagnate and level off. That's the
yeah.
worst you could do. That's the worst thing that can happen to you as a creator, is that you kind of plateau and don't learn anymore. But in a world where technology is changing every 5 minutes, I've just started practicing FPV drone stuff. So hopefully
Hmm.
in the next 12 months, I'm going to start doing that a bit more professionally, and see where we go with that. Um, 18 months ago, I bought my first 4K, that true 4K camera. So I've
Mm,
started using proper log footage and grading properly. So that,
yeah.
you are constantly learning, um,
Mm,
and I don't think it ever ends. I don't think you'll ever
yeah.
stop.
Yeah, you're always, in some ways, you're always your own teacher. Like I always learned from the previous gig, like, oh, I could have changed that, like
Mm.
it's already sent now, but oh, I could have changed that. I could have maybe added that sound effect there. And yeah, you're always learning. But in terms of going back to payment, how do
Yeah.
you deal with the two most, the bane of my existence for this fucking industry? This will get a lot of good exposure, and we've got future work lined up. How do you deal with that? I hate those lines. How do you deal with that?
So if their reply to you is about exposure not paying you, and they're going to obviously just give you tags on Instagram, you have to
Yeah.
be really, you have to sadly weigh it up in your head. If Martin Garrix says to me tomorrow, "Hi, come and film this festival for me for free. I will tag you in all my social media." You know what? In my head
Yeah.
and my heart, I actually do it
Yeah.
because it's what I personally feel I want to do.
Mm,
If it was someone who, if it's a friend and they've got a business that does make money and they want you to do something for free, I don't think that makes them a very good friend.
mm,
Um, and I've photographed loads of weddings for cheap, not for free, but for friends. And I
mm,
set the price myself, and they're like, "Are you sure? That seems really cheap." I'm like, "Yeah, but you guys are friends. Like, I will happily, as long as I'm being paid for something, I don't mind
mm.
doing it cheaper because you're my friend."
Yeah.
Whereas if the client says to you, "We've got no money, but we'll pay you in exposure," I walk away. Especially if it's
Yeah.
something that you're not invested in, if you're not personally invested and you don't think it's going to go anywhere, just it's about playing the game in that respect. Is
Yeah.
this a massive venue that's got lots of engagement and reach? Probably not if they're paying exposure. Are they a DJ that's got multinational status, across the world? Are they internationally
Yeah.
famous? Again, probably not because they're not paying.
Mm.
So yeah, what was the other one other than exposure? What was the other one?
We've got future work lined up.
Oh God, I hear that line a
Is
lot.
that something you have to deal with on the daily? Or
I hear the line a lot in the summer for event stuff.
yeah.
It's like, oh,
Mm,
thank you for your help. The video is really, really cool. We'll hook you up. We've got loads of work coming up. We'll hook you up in the future. And this is going to be really like negative Nancy here, but I just don't believe those words anymore.
mm,
I've been doing this for a decade, and I just don't believe you. I'm sorry. Like, I'm grateful, and I know you're thinking about it, but I know full well you're either going to pick someone close to the venue because that's what people do. They
yeah.
picked me because I was at Boardmasters. They picked me because I'm in Plymouth,
Yeah.
and they like my content, but they also like me because I'm round the corner. Like
Mm,
it's accessible, it's useful, and I'm good value, and my content's good. So you're ticking all the boxes.
yeah.
If a better version of me existed in Liverpool, I'm not sure if I would have been replaced with my equivalent in Liverpool, if that makes sense. If I'd done the
Mhm.
same thing, the same level of networking. So it's when they say there's more work available, and some of them say yes, that some of them there is. Like I've had emails from the Creamfields team because they do events all throughout the year, especially
Yeah.
in the northwest, in the northwest. And I'm just like, damn it, I can't do it. I've got a wedding because it's on a Saturday,
Yeah.
or like, oh, I'd love to, but I'm away or something. And it's gutting, but I'm so happy that they do get in touch. But it's when their excuse is, we're not going to pay you because we're going to give you future work, which will be paid, means there's no work.
Mm,
Because if there's future work where they can pay you, they've got money to pay you in the first place.
yeah. Yeah, like going back to, if Tiesto came to me, I was like, Jack, I'm not going to pay you, but, I'll take you on mini
Not going to
tours with
take the
me.
money.
Yeah, I'll pay you in exposure. You can tell the tax man that you're paying with exposure. You'll tag fucking HMRC in your Instagram post.
At 1,000 exposures, HMRC.
But yeah, like if Tiesto came to me and was like, "Yo, come on tour," like, as long as I'm, you're paying for my flight, my accommodation, I don't care. It will
It is
pay
one of
off.
those things. It's weighing up that personal preference
Mm,
to financial gain, and there there'll be some people's weddings that I did. One of my best mates, Ross, he got married, and
yeah,
he got married privately, and then they did a party like a couple of days later, and they said, "Jay, we'd love you to come as a guest." Uh, would you bring your camera? I said I would rather bring my camera than in some ways go as a guest, because I feel like as his close friend, I feel like I could get the best photos out of them, yeah, and that sort of thing. And he said to us in return, because he's the guy I used to do a lot of second shooting with for weddings, and when I get married, he said to us, oh, I'll do your wedding. I was like, what? Really? I was like, yeah, we'll do it for free. I went, no, you won't do it for free. Like, I'm saying, no, you won't. But it's because you're mates. Yeah, mates will not let friends work for you for free.
Yep.
You can do passion projects like me and my friend Ben. He's got a really nice car, and we've always said, let's go up on the highway, like on the long bending roads up in the moors and the highlands and things like that, and in Dartmoor and up in Bodmin as well, and do some lovely car photography.
Yeah.
Like, so I'll go in the back of one car and we'll drive at a similar sort of speed and we'll get those lovely, the motion-esque type shots.
Yep.
And I'll do that for free because it's fun. Get to hang out with mates. You get some nice photos
Yeah.
out of it. I get some nice photos out of it and some experience, because I don't do car photography. It's all very alien. So
Yeah.
again, yeah, if they're your mates and they want you to work for free, even if it's a case of like my friend who was the baker, I got something out of it. I got some like croissants and bread and things. Like, that's fine. There's got to
Yeah.
be some sort of transaction. It's got to be worth both parties' time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've got a little filter. Have you got like a bit of a filter to just get rid of those people? Because like I've always got, people in my requests on my Instagram, you're like, hey, can we do da 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 da? I've got a little, get to that later, but have you got like a little filter in how to get rid of them, instead of wasting your time on them?
I mean, I get alarm bells ringing when I get a message on my wedding Facebook page with the words, hi, do you do weddings? How much are your packages? And I'm sat there going, my page is called J Stone Wedding Photography. So I do weddings already. So it's a bit of a weird thing to start with. So obviously you've not looked at my page, you've not looked at my work. Your instant thing is price. If they're driven, and there's that age-old saying, if you have to ask about the price, you can't afford it. It's usually that's a saying I've heard for many years. I heard that growing up. But it's just a weird one. And I think for me, my filter, I guess, is when I see that, I take it, I reply. I'd always reply to every message. Generally, I feel like, I'm not big time enough, I guess, in my head to be like, no peasant, I'm not going to talk to you. I'm not quite like that yet.
Yeah.
And if they can't afford me, they either ghost me or they say, sorry, it's a bit out of our price range. Fair enough. I think I probably, out of every 10 wedding inquiries, one will book me.
Yeah.
The other 9 are ghosted. We'll get back to you. We're just searching at the moment, or too expensive.
Yeah.
And I'd rather it be the latter two than the ghosting, because that's one thing that clients have got to stop. Stop ghosting your videographers. Stop ghosting your creatives. Stop. People are putting tenders together for you. They're putting big old emails and spreadsheets of costings and things like that, and you ghost them. Like, don't. They'll never ask. If you ever come back and try and ask for help again and be part of the team, be like, no. Like, you completely shafted us. We spent a week tendering for you, and you don't even say thank you for your tender. You don't say anything. And then you hear like a week later they've just gone back to their in-house team, and it's just a bit like,
what was the point?
What was the point you going to tender? It was like, oh, money's a bit tight. We just stuck with our in-house team. Went, right. So you went out for a 25 grand tender, didn't pick any of them. But it took me 6 weeks to kind of chase you for an answer that you've already done the work with your in-house team for obviously a tenth of the money. So like, this is my thing for clients who want creatives. Don't ghost your creatives. Don't do it.
I mean, I've been messing around with I guess you could say, filters. What I've got now is I've got a Google form. So I've got kind of like questions. I send them. So if they're like, yo, hi, can you come film, my DJ set or my, my nightclub or something like that, film whatever. I send them this Google form, hey man, can you fill out this Google form real quick? And on there, I've got the budget, what all of these questions. And if it like, doesn't meet, I can just tell if not worth my time. Like, all right, yeah, cool.
Wouldn't be detailed enough. It would just be very vague.
Yeah,
or
literally like
ridiculous. Yeah.
I might be exposing myself here, but I've got I had someone in my DMs a couple of days ago, and I sent them the form, and you can just tell the way the answer the questions and stuff. Like I've got I think one of my questions is what do you not want this video to be like turn out? What do you not want in the video? And he put something like pictures of horses, like immature. Like I'm not gonna work with
Okay.
these, you know what I mean? Like I think it's a really good filter that I've kind of discovered on how to get rid of them. Like you've got to have the correct questions. You can't be asking kind of like I don't know.
Yeah.
You just can't. You've got to have the right questions. And like I've got a little threshold as well. I've got like 250 to like £400, 400 and odd
Yeah.
pounds to like 600 to a grand to 2,000 plus. And then I can kind of gauge on that, what kind of level of client they have to. It's not like the cheap or if they've got money, all this sort of stuff.
It's so with that going back onto the money side of things, I always find that the ones that are willing to part with more money are actually more serious about it because they've obviously got to spend
Yeah,
their money.
yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. If we talk about Coca-Cola, they'll spend £1 million on a marketing ad because that's a drop in the ocean. Like that's nothing. But the go-karting guys, four and a half grand is a lot of money.
Yeah,
For a local attraction to spend on marketing, and we produced two. What did we do? We did two videos for them. Both landscape, not portrait, nothing for
yeah.
reels or anything like that, and at least 150 reusable photos for their website for 4.5 grand, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it was what went into those videos. So there was 360 content, there was the FPV content, and so on. But those guys knew that we were providing a lot of different content.
Yeah.
And different ways of capturing said content, and they understood that was the cost was reasonable. I just did.
Yeah.
They also have a laser tag arena adjacent to them, and I just did it took me 4 hours. I was on site for 4 hours. They got all their staff in the most disgustingly scary costumes they could find, and we just did a very quick a promo in their laser tag arena. It was really dark. I had one portable light which my friend Caitlin had brought with us, bright red light shining it. So simple, really simple shoot.
Yeah.
And that was £1,000,
Mm.
which again, some people might think that's a lot, but again, you're paying good, quick, cheap.
Yeah.
If you want it good and you want it quick, it ain't cheap.
Mm-hmm.
And again, they got a selection of photos and a video out of it, and that was for their Halloween weekend, which ends tonight. And I think it's done well. I hope it's done well. Otherwise, I feel like I've done a bad job. But it was really fun to film. I was there for 4 or 5 hours, and I edited it for another 6 or 7 retweaks, logos, and so on. And everyone's like, "Oh my god, you got £1,000 for 10 hours work." I went, no, I got £1,000 for about 10 hours work, plus travel, plus re-edits, plus admin, plus 10 years of experience, plus finding music, plus editing and special effects and God knows what else, and knowing where things are, knowing how to quickly get it done.
Yeah, and that's kind of looping that statement back to nightclubs as well. I do quite a bit of work in Liverpool and the surrounding areas like Leeds and Bolton and all that sort of stuff. And oh my god, you got paid say 200, 300 quid for 40-minute DJ set. You stood behind him,
just stood there with a camera for an hour. Yeah.
Literally. But I'm like, well, yeah, kind of, but I'd take 2 hours to go travel there. I've had to color grade, I've had to fill through all of the footage. I might have 20 odd clips, so 50 clips of just random shots of the DJ at different angles. Got to go through all of that. You got to add their logo. Maybe they want a sound effect or something. It's all of this stuff. Go wait for the render time. You got to then send it over.
Yeah.
Then you got to wait fucking 3 weeks for the buggers to actually send you the money.
And for it to upload as well. You've got to wait. If you're at a hotel, imagine the hotel Wi-Fi. You're there for 4 hours uploading a 50 megabyte video.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of behind the scenes to this stuff, isn't there, that people don't, especially clients, they don't really, take into account. That's why I'm trying to move towards the people who actually, understand us and really value us.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if there's going to always be a direct correlation between good clients and high money and high paying clients. I don't know if there's some of the best clients I've had have been ones that I've done passion projects because they've just been up for anything, but they know what they want, but they don't necessarily know how to get to that stage. So we are able to think creatively outside of the box and do those sort of things.
Yeah.
And they're passion projects. There's not much money in them at all.
Mm.
So I think as you get further down the freelance rabbit hole, I guess, you can kind of pick up when it's not gonna work with that client, or when it is going to work, and when it works really well, you want to have
Yeah.
that client again, and you're happy to see their email in your inbox 6 months down the line for another project.
Yeah. In terms of like, you know, covering yourself when you're getting paid, do you use like for the cheaper gigs, do you use contracts? Like for the higher paying gigs, you're probably going to use quite a lot of technical
Yeah.
contracts. But do you, for the smaller shoots, like maybe 200, 300, £400 a year, is it worth, you know, contracts? Like what do you think?
I mean, I need to take my own advice here a bit more. I don't contract enough. I wish I did.
Mm.
I don't think I'd have as many problems if I did, but everything is always in writing one way or another. Whether it's a
Yeah.
signed contract, all my weddings are signed contracts. That's easy because that keeps me, if anything ever went wrong, if I was unwell, I need to provide someone else. In my
Yep.
contract, it states I'll find someone of a similar quality, whatever it might be.
Hmm.
I feel like if I started to do that for a lot of smaller gigs, we could be facing a little bit of trouble because if I'm not well and it's a small gig, if I can't find someone up really rapidly, what do I do? My contract states I have to find a replacement. What do I do?
Yeah.
Finding replacements 24-hour notice is very difficult for anything.
Yeah.
Corporate events, whatever it might be. But I would always get everything in writing, absolutely everything. Emails, WhatsApp messages, screenshot them if you're paranoid about this client. Screenshot absolutely everything so nothing gets deleted.
Yep.
I mean, I spent 3 years chasing one client for money. But this was a client which the venue had changed hands twice, obviously went through liquidation because of COVID,
Yeah.
and is now back on. And I did work for them this weekend because
Mm.
new owners know what they're doing. PO's already been raised for this weekend's work, and it's Monday. I did the work Saturday. That to
Yeah.
me is I've learned my lesson. Let's move on. Let's get it done. But the more that's at stake from both yourself and the client, the more I'd get in writing. Get your
Yeah.
deliverables right there. 60-second video in portrait and landscape, 150 photos of minimum 2,000 pixels across. That sort of thing. So
Yeah.
if anyone questions it, it's like, no, here it is in black and white. This is what we agreed to. You said yes to all of this in an email. And if they change the goalposts, or, I mean, one client of mine, we quoted for 3 videos. I gave them 3 videos. We had to re-edit them 10 times because they
Ooh.
were just never happy, and I never understood why. To then find less than 6 months later, I'd found these 3 videos re-edited by a competitor for the same client.
Yeah.
And I'm sat here going, definitely didn't agree. Didn't allow for that to be the thing. That's not how this works. Like, just because you own the video doesn't mean you can, completely cut it apart and re-edit it for someone else because you're not happy with it.
Oh
You
my.
come, it's just,
Yeah.
and it wasn't done well. They chopped it up and turned it into halfway through turned it into a slideshow of still images, and that was a bit weird. And
Oh my God.
I
Yeah.
was just like, you know what, I'm done. Like, I put my hands up and I said to my colleagues, I went, yeah, we ain't doing that again. No,
Mm.
no, thank you.
In terms of, like, I get this quite a bit because I'm fairly active in the nightclub industry with DJs and all that. They want the raw footage, and I'm like for for DJ sets, I don't mind, just go film. I'm not really editing it into anything, but raw, like I don't know, like I very rarely release my raw footage. But then, with this industry, you're probably not going to go over £300. So I'm like, but I want extra, if I'm going to release the raw footage. So it's a bit of a tricky one. But do you ever release your raw footage?
So some things I do. So I have like for the stuff I do for the council, I have like a big Google Drive of raw clips of aerial footage of the city, the parks, recreation, all that sort of stuff, like a generic, almost a stock folder. That's where raw footage for me works. Where it doesn't work is where I get, no, say for example, if the go-karting guys asked me for all the raw footage, it was 1.9 terabytes of data for this one shoot. And I said, your computer won't handle it. It's 10-bit 422, 4K 120 frames a second. Your computer
Yeah.
will not handle it. It will be jerky, and I will get email after email saying, "Oh, we can't view your footage. It's not very good," you know. And and I shoot most of my stuff in 422, which does need a little bit of a fairly beefy CPU and a GPU.
Yeah.
I'm not saying like, I mean, mine's probably overkill. I've got a 3090. I went a bit overkill with my build, but that's because I'm a gamer. So
Yeah.
it was worth it for me. But if they're after raw footage, my first instinct is why? What do you need? And if it's a
Yeah.
case of, oh, we want to re-edit it, I went, well, why don't you pay me to re-edit it?
Yeah.
Because if you're just doing it from a saving money sort of situation, then I think you're going to be very frustrated because you're never going to be able to open half these files.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I've had oh boy, I mean, I did a nightclub down in London. I don't know if you know, like Leek Street. I think it's 26 Leek Street down in London.
Yeah.
There was a bit of a nightclub Afrobeats event I did there, and I was like, yeah, cool. I sent them the final, edit, and they disappeared for a while. But then they've come back, and they've been asking me if I've kept any of the raw footage. I mean, I've kept some stuff, but they're like, can you give it us for free? And I'm like, no. So what they've done, like this is why I don't really like giving up my raw footage. Even giving them
Same,
the
I hate
final
it.
deliverable. Like what they've done is they've taken out, like they've gone all, like there was like two other videographers there. They've taken all the footage from the final edit, and they've made this. I don't even know what it is, a
A monster.
monstrosity of a
Yeah.
video. Like my edits, I can see, my shots are really good. And then it was kind of like beginner videographers there, throwing my stuff in with their shaky footage, and it's like, oh, what is this that they've done? They've used an iris transition, like, oh my god, what have you done to my footage? And they tagged me as well. I was like, no,
Oh, that's
do
the
not
worst.
put my
That's the worst
name.
bit. That's the worst bit.
Oh,
Don't put my
mate,
name on something you've butchered. Yeah.
don't put my name on that absolute horrendous. Oh my, an iris. No, what are you doing? So
It's
yeah,
it's the page wipes that I love when.
But I haven't had that, thank God. But the iris is quite a common one. The editing, iMovie, and all transitions, so they cut out like a 3-second shot and then stick it all together. It's like, oh my God.
I mean, that one who re-edited there, like that piece that I said earlier, they removed like a key interview because they didn't like it.
Yeah.
And somehow copy and pasted the music from earlier in the video to fill the gap of sound, and then puts photos in it like a slideshow.
Oh.
And I'm a bit like, you could have asked me to remove the interview, and I would have just compressed the video down.
Yeah.
That would have taken me 30 seconds. Like, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, have you ever not been paid by a client?
Yep. Oh yes. Oh yes.
What's your best story of that?
It was nearly the one that never paid ever. The one that paid about 12 weeks ago. That was 3 years nearly. I filmed. It was for a nightclub in Freshers 2019. Chasing. Oh, you're not on our system, right? Set up on the system. Oh, we've lost your details on the system. Oh, okay, set it up again. Oh, we've lost your invoice. Oh, have you got a PO number? Have you got insurance? Have you got? I was like, yeah, I have. It's a bit late now if I haven't got insurance because I've done the event. You can't just because these things. It's like they were almost backtracking. They've realized they've messed something up and they're trying to like get me out. And this was the previous owners of the company. It's not now. No reflection of who they are now. They're much more organized now, thankfully. But yeah, that was nearly not paid, and that was about. There's only 200-300 quid, but it's not the point. 200-300 quid is a third of rent these days.
Yeah,
it's a lot of money in the grand scheme of things. And there was one client we had again. It's much like it's the transition between owners. This seems to be a growing theme. There was a promoter event in the city where I used to do the photos for, and the promoter moved it from one nightclub to another, so I moved with them.
Yeah.
But the new promoters of the old venue wanted a photographer. And I said, well, I'll get someone under my wing. Pay me, I'll pay them. And I was paying them out of my own money, waiting for them to reimburse me every month, sort of thing. and that totaled about 200 or 300 quid, and even to this day, that's never been paid back.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'll ever hear from them or get that money ever. So it's just a bit
Lost
like,
the
ugh.
wins, eh? Have you
Yeah,
ever
I mean,
like?
you know,
Oh, sorry, go on.
no, it's one of those things where just like it's you learn your lesson, you move on, you just
Yeah.
don't do it again.
I mean, have you ever or nearly taken anyone to court over that sort of stuff?
Not over
Small
money.
claims.
Yeah, I've never done small claims or anything like that. The closest I've ever done from a court sort of view is copyright infringement. That's the
Oh my
closest
god.
I've ever
Oh,
done.
I've got a right story for that one.
Um, but so during COVID, I came across a video which used a lot of my event footage, like a hell of
Yeah.
a lot. And I was like, not only is that my footage, that's my edit as well. So
Mm,
and that edit is only available on one page, the council's YouTube page. So someone's
yeah.
obviously ripped off of YouTube and put it in their own product. And
Hmm.
I looked at the description. It said it was made by another production company. I emailed the production company saying, "Hi, you're claiming you've made this video. 90% of the footage in this video is mine. Not only is it my footage, it's also my edit."
Yeah.
And they went, "Oh, we were given this footage by blah blah blah." And I went, "Right." So I got in touch with them, and they said, "Oh, we're doing it to support the events industry and so on and so forth." And I went, "Yeah, I get that. How did you get the footage?" "Oh, it was gifted to us by someone else." Another email, another email, another email.
Yeah.
And I said, "Guys, this is a massive breach of copyright here. You've taken my work and used it for another, not necessarily to make money, but for another purpose." And
Yeah.
my clients, because the videos come from the council, as in the edits from the was on the council page because I made it for them. Me and them were both sat there going, "Yeah, this isn't cool. They've nicked our stuff that the council's paid me to produce it for them, and someone else has taken it."
Mm,
So it was one of those moments where I just thought, right, guys, if you don't remove this or at least pay me, I will take this further. And they're not. They were
mm,
like, "Well, no, we're not going to remove it because it's been up now for 6 months. It's got 8,000 views, whatever it might be." And I said, "Well, how much would you want for it?" I said, "Well, realistically, you've taken 2 years worth of edited work there. Granted, it might be old, but it took a long time to make that, and you've used it for your own gain. Here's a quote for £1,000 or whatever." I can't remember what I did, something like that. I went, "Oh, that's
mm.
we're a charity. We can't afford that." I went,
Don't fucking
"Okay,
steal it
like
then.
don't steal people's footage."
Yeah.
And I was chatting to the council about it, and they've realised actually that's how this whole raw stock footage archive came about. They said, "Let's
Yeah.
do this. Let's make this. Stop people from nicking our stuff. Let's offer them an alternative.
That's a
Let's
good
do it."
idea. That's a good
Yeah,
idea.
so we've set up this like almost like a retainer, so the council pay me X amount of money a year to top it up with new bits and bobs every now and then.
Yeah.
Um, and it's worked out all right. It's all there.
Mm,
It's all good. But
yeah.
yeah, copyright was the only thing I think I've come close to dealing with on a legal perspective. Never ever
Yeah.
happened. A threat is enough to stop, I find.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, copyright. It's like every couple of weeks, months, I've always got a new copyright thing. Like I'll be scrolling through somewhere and like, oh, hang on, that's that's my shit. Take it off. Like I was doing name and shame. Oh, I hate this company. I hate this guy. But no, I don't think I will. But
Nah, don't.
I
Yeah,
was
so I
doing
just say don't say anyone. Yeah.
I was doing a nightclub and he was, red flags, but I was like, I don't have any work on, I might as well take it, from what I normally charge, it's a little, quite a bit less. I was like, might as well have, this payment rather than, be free and have zero. So I took it, but there was like red flag after red flag. And I drafted up a contract. All right, I'm going to get a contract with this guy. And I told him like four or five times that it's then ready to be signed. He was like, "Oh no, yeah, I'll get it done." The event rolls around. I do the event, send him the final after movie, and it's
Mm.
like, okay, and where's the rest of it? I was like, what do you mean, where's the rest of it?
Where's the
Where's all these raw
rest?
clips?
Oh
Yeah, I was
God,
like,
that
well,
line.
no, in the contracts it states clause, I don't know, clause 3. This is what I will provide. I was like, oh, what contract? So
Oh,
to cut a long story short, one way I get through not being paid is I slap my watermark all over it. So they're not going to get the final thing without, you know, without
That's
the
a good
watermark
idea.
removed.
That's a really good idea.
So I plaster my watermark all over it, and somehow they managed to remove it from like a 45-second video. So now they've got it on their Instagram. Like Instagram's taken it down like 4 times, and they were saying, emailing me, you know, if this happens again, we will terminate their account. You know, repeat offenders. So I'm like, oh, please upload it one more time so I can get your account terminated, you little worm. So yeah, so they've removed all of my watermarks off it. They've done re-edits and stuff like that, and they held an event recently, and they used my after movie to promote their new shitty event. And I was like, oh my god, dude, my head in, like, not only you know, using my stuff without paying for it, you're using it to get even more money.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you know, I saw all these red flags. I was like, you know what, let me just ignore it. But lesson learned. I was like, you were taken to court, but you know, it was.
And we learn more from our mistakes than we do our successes.
Yeah.
And we always have done. Especially in the creative world, you know, I've learned more about things I will not do again on certain shoots because it just doesn't work and it's a waste of time than I did from the things that I've always done. So, I always know how to put the tripod level. Like, that's fine. That's normal. Like, you know when you've done it wrong, you know how to correct it, so you don't get to that wrong stage again.
Yeah.
And you don't find yourself in a similar situation.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just a thing creatives have to deal with, isn't it? Copyright, not being paid, delayed. Hey, but it is what it is. In terms of question, that's all I've got really. Unless you want to add anything.
Oh gosh, no, I don't think so. I think we've covered almost my life story of the creative journey of content creators in the world, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, so what's your socials? If anyone wants to find you, what are your socials?
So if you guys want to find out anything more about what I do, I am at JStoneUK on Instagram, Twitter, and I want to say the same on Facebook. I don't have TikTok because I am old. I'm not quite there yet. And yeah, by all means, if anyone wants to get in touch with anything that I do, by all means, drop me a message. I even look in my request inbox. And would love to chat. Yeah,
I'll leave them in the
eventually.
description. Yeah, I've got like 50 different requests. I'm starting to go through them all slowly but surely. So yeah, I'll leave his socials in the description. And yeah, if you like what you see, here, subscribe to the channel. You know, I've got some other podcasts lined up with some cool guys, and I've got a couple of others done on the channel. So check out the channel, like, subscribe, do all the stuff, and I'll see you on the next video.